Okay, I don't think that was the best idea. We will not be doing that again. Hey guys, it's Damo here, and it's been a while since we got together. I know that's my fault, and I've missed you. But I have been busy on two wheels. I did a crossing of the Simpson Desert with Darrell Beatty Adventures. That was a magnificent week. I got to ride the Madigan line, first time for me, and an unforgettable experience. I travelled to the Philippines for the world launch of CF Moto's 450 MT, and what a fantastic little bike that was. Ooh, it was hot there though. But I can't wait to ride that thing back here on Australian soil. I followed that up with an invitation by CF Moto to visit their factory in Hangzhou, China. I got a tour of the entire factory. I even got to go to the R&D centre. It was a really good trip. Culturally, it was mind-blowing just to see the size of that factory and the amount of bikes and quads and scooters and electric bikes they pump out. You can check out my story on advlife.com.au. It covers everything we did and everything we saw. And then I rode from Darwin to Broome. So I cut across Western Australia with the BMW Safari guys. It was the BMW Safari Enduro for 2024. And that was the deepest I'd gone into Western Australia. And WA blew my mind. We got to stop at iconic places like El Questro Station and Mount Elizabeth Station. And I really got a taste for a place I'd not seen much of. Fast forward a few weeks and I got to see WA good and proper with the Darrell Beatty Canning Stock Route ride. This was the last of Darrell Beatty Adventures rides after 10 years of taking people to the most remote places in Australia. And wow, what a way to go out. We started in Uluru. We did well over 1,000 kilometres down the Gun Barrel Highway to Wiluna before we started the Canning Stock Route and made our way north. WA is so much more beautiful and varied than I ever imagined it was. One minute you're on the moon, the next minute you're in this beautiful garden with a pelt of purple flowers that smell incredible. You've got giant mountains that come out of nowhere. Then you've got rivers like New Zealand. And it also involved the single greatest day I've ever had on a motorcycle. Without a doubt, our ride into Lake Disappointment, which is poorly named because it is absolutely beautiful and anything but disappointing. But our ride into that camp that night was mind-blowing. Beautiful berms just banked on outside of each corner. Each sand dune had one just perfectly shaped as though a track builder had been in, and then it might double up and you go 1, 2, like a roller coaster ride, and just reliving it brings a massive smile to my face. Absolutely brilliant ride. Again, there is a story about that on advlife.com.au, so please check out the story and the photos that go along with it. Brilliant ride. But anyway, here I am back again, and it's time I made another video. And I thought, I've had a few requests for a follow-up to my video on my Africa Twin Adventure Sports named Murray. Say hello to everyone, Murray. Now, Muzz. Murray, you're being rude. Just make a beep sound. Rock back and forth, do something. This is why you don't have any friends, mate. You're rude. So, did I make the right choice? That's what this video is about. I have to reconcile my emotional attachment to the Africa Twin name with the undeniable flaws that this motorcycle has. And there are some uncomfortable truths to face. It's going to be a journey, so without any further ado, let's go riding, yeah? I was drawn to the Africa Twin from a young age, through images in magazines of this stunning looking machine taking on the deepest deserts, the hardest races that set my imagination ablaze. They were originally a very rare sight here in Australia, and the closest I could ever get was through grainy VHS footage. And then, in 2016, when Honda re-released the Africa Twin, I made a promise to myself that I would, one day, own one for myself. So is there anything I wish I knew before I bought the Africa Twin that maybe could have changed my mind? Yeah, there's a couple of things actually. The standard suspension on the Africa Twin Adventure Sports is tuned for European road riders. And I understand that to a degree. That's a huge market. The European road rider is a huge market. They don't ride off-road like Australians or Americans or South Africans do. They spend a lot of their time on the road and they want more road bikes. They don't want more off-road ready adventure bikes. So if you're Honda, you go, give them an adventure bike, but stick road stuff on it so they're happy. This suspension is not great. And for $27,000 that I paid for it, I want it to be at least good. Good would make me happy. Just a lot closer to good than it is to not great on the scale anyway. If it was 35% better suspension, this bike, I think, would be looked at quite differently. These bikes are getting more expensive and I want better. I expect better suspension than what's here. I have tuned it. I have taken time to tune the suspension using the clickers and the preload adjustments. I found that making it stiffer just made it more uncomfortable with absolute minimal gains. I haven't had the suspension tuned because that would defeat the purpose of testing a stock bike and then reporting back to you guys on what it's like several thousand kilometers into owning one. Plus, I paid nearly $30,000 hard-earned dollars for this bike. And I kind of begrudge the fact that I left the dealers and it's expected that I'll just wander off to my suspension tuner and hand them over a couple of grand to fix a major flaw in a major component. These bikes are getting more and more expensive. Adventure bikes in particular are getting more expensive. And we're getting more power than we could possibly need. We're hitting 170 horsepower on some of these bikes now. No one needs that, particularly off-road, in my opinion. I certainly don't anyway. If you do, mazel tov, big nuts. For the electronic stuff, we're getting more and more electronics. It's stopping short of boiling you an egg in the morning for breakfast. Some of it is really good, some of it is terrible. What we do need and what we should expect is better quality suspension across the board. Because good quality suspension gives you more confidence. It keeps you safer. It is the most important single component, in my opinion, on any motorcycle. If you want to ride fast, it comes from your suspension, not your engine. If you want to ride confidently, it's going to come from your suspension. If you want to be safe, riding fast and confidently, that's going to come from your suspension as well. So there are, of course, bikes with fantastic suspension that I really appreciate anyway, like the Aprilia Tuareg 660, the 890 Adventure R, even the 1290 Super Adventure R. For the size and weight and power of that thing, that WP Explore stuff holds that bike really, really well. And I expect more from Honda than what they give us on the Africa Twin Adventure Sports. And it's not that I want to go and do jumps and mad skids. That's not how I generally ride anyway. I'm usually happy to plod along and eat up the kilometres, admiring the landscape and talking to myself, maybe just a little bit. This track is lots of fun. This morning is perfect. What a great day to be on a motorcycle. Checks navigation. That's not us, this is. Okay, so next up, I'm going to talk about the electronic suite on the Africa Twin Adventure Sports. It's quite a complete electronic suite. There's pretty much everything you could think of in there, but does it all work and do you need most of it? Any conversation about the Africa Twin electronics must start right here with the left-hand switch block. A switch block that contains no less than 14 buttons. There are 4 more on the right-hand switch block, and some of these 14 buttons don't work unless you use them in conjunction with one of the 4 over there. That's astounding. And I'd like to break from convention right here, if I may. I'm going to ask everyone to just take 5, just duck out, get some fresh air, maybe have a Lamington or chocolate milk. And I'd like to talk straight to the engineer at Honda who designed this switch block. Maybe we'll go over there and just have a conversation between the two of us. Come on, let's go. Hey man, how are you? Listen, just between you and me, that's not some of your best work, is it? You're a bit of an overthinker, maybe. Just a little bit of an overthinker. 18 buttons on switch blocks, yeah, 14 on one switch block. It's not a home theatre system, man, it's a motorcycle. Anyway, listen, man, it's not your best work. I'm sure you've done much better. I hope all the best for you and your family. Now let's get back to everyone else. Compounding the confusing nature of this gargantuan switch block is bad UI, bad user interface. User interface is what makes it easy or difficult to use any piece of electrical equipment. It's extremely important, and I'm convinced that bad user interface is what puts up a barrier for some people from embracing electronics, particularly on adventure bikes. And I say particularly adventure bikes because these are the bikes that bring us out to these beautiful places, which is essentially an analog experience, just you, your machine, and nature. And then you've thrown this electronics, this confounding electronics that's difficult to use into the mix. And you've made it so every now and then I really should use it. It does make things easier in some ways. But when it's difficult to actually use, that user interface gets in the way, people shun it. They turn away from bikes that have it in spades like this. There is some great stuff in this electronics package, but it could be much easier to use. The Africa Twin also comes loaded with Apple CarPlay and whatever that Android equivalent is. And I quite like it. It's good for using maps in particular. I throw up those maps on the big screen and it just makes it really easy to see. And it means you can get your phone out of harm's way when the weather gets bad. Now, I could never get it to work longer than about an hour and a half. And then once it started cutting out, it would cut out constantly. I'd maybe get 5 to 10 minutes out of it before it cut out. And that would carry on for the whole day until I got frustrated enough to disconnect everything and just go old school. Now, I've seen that a lot of people have had this problem and they recommend using different lightning cables for their iPhones. You've got to get it from a certain supermarket at a certain time of day from a certain cashier, or of course the special lightning cable that was made from braided butt hairs of a Bolivian unicorn that can only be bought from a tiny little store in Chinatown from a guy who also happens to sell mogwai.
I'm sorry, mogwai not for sale.
And I eventually just unhooked my phone and my helmet comms from the bike and I don't use it at all anymore, which is a shame. One of the things about the electronic suite on the Africa Twin that I do like is the fact that this screen is a touch screen, which means doing something like turning ABS off is a cinch. You just turn the bike on, wait 20 seconds for the electronics to fire up, and then once it's done that, you reach forward, touch ABS off, confirm, and off you go. You don't have to roll forward or anything to initiate this. You don't have multiple button pushes like you do on something like a Tenere World Raid. You just reach forward and push off, and there you go. Happy days. That's good thinking. Love it. Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Confounding Decisions made by Honda engineers while designing the Africa Twin Adventure Sports electronic system, episode 7. Today we're going to zero right in on that brilliant LED screen. It's nice and big. It's easy to read. At a glance, you get all the information you need, and it's got a cute little sun hood to keep it safe from those UV rays. But what we want to do now is narrow right in to the 3 graphics displays at the bottom. There you have power, engine braking, and traction control. If you want more traction control, you dial it up in increments of 7 clockwise. You don't need the last 5, but there are 7 there. Engine braking, dial it up clockwise in increments of 3. For power, you dial it up clockwise in increments of 4. Don't you? No, it's backwards. It's counterclockwise. Who does this? Why is it the opposite to the other 2? I mean, seriously, what the
Well, that's live television for you.
I once got into an argument with a road bike journalist, which is an easy thing to do. They're an irritable bunch, particularly in the mornings before they've had their soy latte with a double cinnamon twist. And he claimed that the engine on the Africa Twin was boring, 105 horsepower. And I couldn't disagree more. Absolutely do not need more than what this has to offer off-road. And of course, there are some absolute fire breathers in the adventure market that put out 160, 170 horsepower now. But when you duck them down to their off-road modes, they hit around about 100 horsepower because it seems to be agreed that's all us mere mortals will need off-road. And this engine goes a long way to making this a good touring bike as well. It's complemented by the high windscreen, the heated hand grips, the cruise control, the nice wide seat, wide pillion seat, plenty of room for luggage. Now you can get the Adventure Sports nowadays with a 19-inch front wheel and lowered suspension. It's better for on-road use, but ugh. And it also has one of the best sounding OEM exhaust systems of any adventure bike. From idle to underload and full growl, this thing sounds absolutely gorgeous. So you might be wondering, why didn't I go for the DCT or the ES?
Why didn't you buy the DCT or the ES version?
Well, it's a financial reason, frankly. I like the DCT and I like the ES, but they're more expensive and I max my budget out with the standard edition. It's really that simple. And if I did extend myself financially for either the DCT or the ES, it would have eaten into my yearly breakfast beer budget. And we can't have that. In the interest of making this a completely thorough motorcycle test, let's blast through some of the smaller details so we have a comprehensive idea of the package of the Africa Twin Adventure Sports. The brakes are good. Maintenance on the Africa Twin in general is pretty good and the maintenance schedules are quite well spaced apart. By far the hardest job though is changing your air filters. There are two on the Africa Twin, one on each side just behind these panels, but there are myriad panels there that you have to remove. And those panels are held in by a whole bunch of tiny little plastic clips that are easy to break and easy to lose. There must be an easier way. Just a flat panel there with a door would do the job. There has to be a better way than what they've served up here. The large size metal rear rack takes a good size load and it's well placed. The windscreen is height adjustable and I think it's pretty much bang on, although in the worst of storms you can get water coming up there and spurting straight onto your helmet face. The standard pegs are diabolically small, so I replaced those with pivot pegs. The reason I like pivot pegs, oh that hurt. The reason I like pivot pegs is because I can rock forward. And you do need to be able to do that on the Africa Twin. This tank flares out quite a bit. It's hard to hold it with your legs, but being able to angle your feet down means you can keep your weight forward quite comfortably. Overall, there's plenty of room to pack luggage. I've almost always got this tank bag on, or these Siskiyou soft panniers. Underneath those though, just a little hint, I run a little bit of padding so you don't scratch your bike. I learnt that from Nick Selleck from Machine Tours. Thanks, Nick. The seat is pretty good. It's not V-Strom comfortable, but it's not as hard as a DR650 either. So yeah, not too bad overall. And I replaced the OEM mirrors with these fold-away units to keep them out of harm's way and fight the flop. I got those from motopro.com.au. These stock handguards are pretty weak. If you're a bit rough on your bike and you drop it a bit, they'll have the lifespan of a paper straw. So before you leave the dealers, just replace them with something good. I know I'm going to get the inevitable, what tyres do you use? Well, I don't use any particular type of tyre, but at the moment I have, what is that, the Michelin I think. It's an Anarchy on the front and it's a Motos at the back. I don't mind the Michelin. The Motos is, it's very loud on the road. But listen, I want to talk about tyre choice. It's a very personal choice. And it depends on what you ride, where you ride and how you ride. I mean, if you have a 450 MT, it doesn't matter what tyres I've got on this. You can't take that as gospel, it'll work for you. If you live somewhere that's extremely rocky, I live somewhere that's very sandy, we're riding in different things. Do you have your weight up the front? Is it neutral? Do you sit down a lot like me? That affects the way the bike goes as well. So when you listen to people giving you cast iron, you must buy this tyre, take these things into account. Not every tyre will work the same for everybody and every bike. After suiting up, I couldn't help but eye off the nearby trail bike loop. A loop I'd ridden many times on everything from a 500 to a 250 and my favourite, the 200 two-stroke. It's not a natural playground for a 250 kilo adventure bike with suspension that's more suited to hunting croissants than railing ruts. The wet and slippery conditions added to the fun and sadly, my GoPro battery died just moments before I hit a tree root that brought me and Murray crashing down in the mud. Okay, I don't think that was the best idea. We will not be doing that again. Sorry, Murray. Yeah, we'll probably do it again.
Like poison in my veins, this love for you is dangerous. I'd give it all, throw it all away. Feel you like a cold rush. I give everything, I'd do anything.
It's important to take a moment to stop, be still, and take in all the beauty that Mother Nature provides here in Australia. To smell the aromas, see the colours, and hear the wonderful sounds of bush life. Now, block out any distractions, relax your mind, and focus on your inner self. Don't let any intrusive thoughts enter your mind. Just allow your perception of life to flow with the wind. Nothing can distract you from finding a deep calm that brings you closer to total relaxation and inner peace. Let Australia embrace you and raise your vibrations through contact with the peaceful creatures of the land.
There's only one creature of the land that I want contact with. If I was to do an oversimplified comparison between the Africa Twin and the other two big bore adventure bikes that I've spent the most time on, namely KTM's 1290 Super Adventure R and Ducati's Multistrada V4S, if I could put it in cricketing terms, it's simple. The KTM is Jeff Thompson.
Thompson to Lloyd. And hit badly there that time.
And this is Murph Hughes. For those of you not from cricketing nations, and nobody's perfect, I'll use music for an example. The KTM is AC/DC, the Ducati is Coldplay, and this is the Doobie Brothers. And actually, riding an Africa Twin like it is a Doobie Brothers song is a great analogy on the best way to ride the Africa Twin adventure sports. It is a bit loose, it is more relaxed. You can't ride it like Back in Black over there. It's not as polished as Clocks over there by Coldplay. No, this is a loose and relaxed and more conservative experience. It is the Doobie Brothers of adventure bikes.
Hear that voice getting louder, it keeps my back to the wall. Fear starts taking me over, and I can't help but fall to my knees. Oh, can't you see, you won't let me be. Tears me down till I'm begging for rest. Heart so loud as it beats in my chest. Can't get down, no, he can't have the best of me. No, the devil's got no hold on me. No, I try getting farther, keep my feet from the stray, but the road gets harder and I get led away. You see, can't you see, he won't let me be. He tears me down till I'm begging for rest. Heart so loud as it beats in my chest. I can't get down, no, he can't have the best of me. No, the devil's got no hold on me. Don't give up and don't give in. You're worth more, so don't pretend. I won't let you fall away. Get back up, you've won this day. There'll be troubles all along. Don't forget to sing this song. I'll be there to take your stand. Don't forget you're in my hand.
So I've spent a fairly large amount of this video slandering the Africa Twin. Sorry, Muzz, apologies. And you're probably thinking here at the conclusion, he's going to regret buying an Africa Twin. And you know what? I don't. I love this bike. This bike is my mate. It's so weird. It's almost intangible. I think the Japanese call it wabi-sabi, finding love in something through its imperfection. When I walk out of a shop and I see my bike, I stop and just stare at it for a minute. I finish paying for fuel, I come out, I stare at it for a second. Every night I open the garage door and I say, "Good night, Murray. Maybe I need more friends." In the morning I open the garage door and I say, "Good morning, mate." No one refers to it as his bike, my bike, the Africa Twin. Everyone calls it Murray. It has a personality that I've not found in any other motorcycle that I've owned. And I know there are better bikes. There are gleaming chariots of perfection, but they kind of feel, if not soulless, then a lack of personality. They're not drawing me to them. Technically, yes. On paper, absolutely. The performance of this part and that part, yes, absolutely. But the whole package together, no. Yes, it has imperfections, but they're kind of modern problems. And if the suspension was 35% better and I went 35% faster, I'd probably wrap myself 35% further up a tree. I know I've got to let this bike go soon. I don't have that much longer with it. And that makes me sad. We've had some fun. But that time is not yet, and we're going to have some more fun. No, I don't regret buying Murray. I love this thing, and we're going to have some more adventures. Let's go, Muzz. Yes, I know I have to apologise for a few things. Well, listen, mate. Those air filters are ridiculous. Those stupid little plastic clips. Why does it take 30 seconds for the electronics to start up too?